On a recent trip to Europe, we found a booming business in the most remote parts of Northern Ireland. It brings fans of the worldwide hit television show Game of Thrones to some of the real-life places where the fantasy program was shot. Here's our Journey of the Thrones. It's a sunny afternoon on the northern coast of Northern Ireland at a place called Ballantoy Harbour. The TV version of the same scene on the HBO TV fantasy program Game of Thrones is a little dirtier, darker, and more threatening.
I need to get to Pike.
Sheep Island in the background would be...
Caroline McComb's Coach Tour Company began transporting Game of Thrones extras when production began in Northern Ireland nearly a decade ago. If we look through the episodes, we can find...
You will constantly see this coming up.
She says nobody had any idea the show would become an international sensation, except perhaps the people who were working on it. When did you learn this was going to be a big thing?
Once we started doing the coach tours and we realised how many thousands and thousands of people would travel from such far distances to see where Game of Thrones was made, that was really when we realised what a real phenomenon that Game of Thrones was.
Business has been non-stop ever since her company started its Game of Thrones tour, turning this once quiet harbour into a busy tourist destination.
We put the tour together in one night, put it on sale the next day, and it was flying off the shelves. It was amazing.
Do you have any statistics or estimates that can tell us how many people really do want to come here and see these locations?
Well, on our tour alone, last year we had 20,000 people on our coach tour. This year, in the first quarter of the year, we've seen a 31% increase on last year.
To our final location of the day, it's probably illegal.
It's estimated 500,000 Game of Thrones fans from around the world have visited Northern Ireland to see where the show is taped.
Finland.
Kansas City.
From Australia, Sydney.
They also stop at the nearby Dark Hedges scene, and they immerse themselves into the program.
The only one left is like a lovely light blue one.
Tour guide Eric Nolan leads tourists at another Game of Thrones locale. It's the remains of a 12th century abbey, better known to Thrones fans as Robb Stark's camp.
So if you guys want to come on over, just grab yourself a prop, take a banner with you, take a sword.
Nolan says the popularity of the Game of Thrones tour is here to stay, just like Northern Ireland's other big draw, the Titanic Museum in Belfast.
You know, so it's just insane how the show is basically, it affects people's lives. That's why the tour, I think, will never end. It's just the biggest thing in TV and film history.
Dylan Wooten was declared king for the day after he won the Game of Thrones Tour Bus Trivia Challenge.
I think it's really cool that they use like actual medieval sets and all that stuff to really bring the show to life.
I'm an old man. I've seen a lot of TV in my youth. This is the most extraordinary production I have ever seen.
It's the one show that I can sit down with my grandfather and my whole family, and we sit down and watch it. Even though there are some awkward scenes and some themes that,
well, your younger sisters didn't sit.
Yeah.
No one is safe.
Yeah,
so it makes it interesting.
Usually the main
die.
Character doesn't die, and here you're just like, you cannot expect someone to survive. They're probably going to die at some point. Yeah.
It's just really pretty, you know.
As for McComb and others profiting from local Game of Thrones tourism, good news. Filming has already begun here on a Game of Thrones prequel. What would you say, as someone who's watched all of the episodes, is the appeal of that series?
I think it's a bit of escapism and move away to a fantasy land where people don't really make rational decisions or don't consider other people. For me personally, I love to see the scenery as well. It's not just about the story in Game of Thrones, but it's just to look around and see the beautiful country that we're so lucky to come from.
Even for someone who's never seen Game of Thrones, spectacular scenery.